Well, good morning, and you couldn't ask for a more perfect day at the moment for bonfire. It's about 1 degree at the moment. I could see my breath when I puffed and huffed this morning. I had a nice cold feeling, nice cold nose, and I also be able to shuffle through a few leaves as they started to fall, although they are later and later, as one friend pointed out the other day. But today, of course, is bonfire day in Lewes. Bonfire night, I suppose, but it goes on all day, and already there's evidence in the streets of some activity this morning. There were some bonfire boys out posting stuff all over the place. And generally speaking, it is going to hit about 10 to 11 degrees. It'll be 6 or 7 this evening, fairly cool, but the breeze, which was threatening yesterday, is going to be light. And there we are, a rather nice day for bonfire, we would hope. I'm Keith Hayes. This is Mirador Television, broadcasting out of Lewes, and hopefully we'll be able to do the parade this evening. We'll are on the air about 6 o'clock and stay on until 10. All this is new technology to us because we're only just coming out of lockdown and we're finding out what's left working and what's not. But we're trying hard to bring you a decent product, and do join us at 6 o'clock, and we'll try hard to keep an eye on what's going on. Of course, the activities go on more or less all day, but they start in earnest around about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, so we'll pick them up as they really start to get into full swing, because many of you are coming home from work then, those who have gone back to work, and all in all, not a bad sort of day, and certainly excitement, because last year there was no bonfire because of COVID. And here we are back again this year. So that's excellent stuff. Now, where does all this take place? Before we go to the newspaper headlines, which of course are just absolutely wonderful, where does this all take place? Well, let's take a look. Beautiful Lewes from the air. Well, that's where it's all going to happen today, in all those streets and roads, and in the town on the hill. Lewes was originally, the Saxon was Lewes, L-O-O-S, meaning a hill. And that's where we are, right on a hill. And a lot of the marching today will be up and down Dale. And it will be exciting as it gets going, and particularly for those people who are heavily involved in bonfire, good luck, because they missed a year, and that bit deeply into the bonfire societies, who put a lot of effort and a lot of love and concern into their various organisations, with some almost an obsession, I think. Right, okay, newspaper headlines. Tory Owen goal and horror at the morgue. The Owen goal is that Owen Paterson has quit, and that's really thrown Boris into a tizzy, because what they did yesterday was they actually managed to overturn a censure motion, and there was all hell broke loose. And then Boris decided to change his mind and didn't back Paterson, and so the man has now quit, realising that he's being left alone. And it makes Boris look rather stupid, really, that he's got no judgment and doesn't back the right horse. The Guardian, of course, just revels in this. Tories plunged into crisis after Sleaze rules U-turn. Well, I think I'd be a bit upset if I'd actually got out onto a limb the way that Boris did. Is the Metro. Tory Owen Goal, O-W-E-N, yes, they're all playing on that this morning. And a day of chaos in Downing Street. Right, the Times. The PM faces party backlash after suspension U-turn. The Times also revelling in it, suggesting that Boris has got a lot of work to do to keep people on side after one of several misjudgments, I think. Yeah, the Star. Well, the good old Star writers of, well, we didn't see that U-turn coming, said nobody ever. They're really, well, they're giving Boris a really bad time with that, aren't they? And the Daily Express, of course, goes to bat for the government in many ways. Game changer, world's first pill to fight COVID. So it leaves the scandal totally, and it talks about a new pill that's been developed that has been tested and apparently is very, very it's very effective. I'm sorry, something just came down on the screen to say that somebody somewhere in this Google mess has made a little video for me, but I'm sure I'm not going to look at it now. Never know what might be in it. Game changer, world's first pill to fight COVID then. So the Daily Mail, is anybody in charge at number 10? But then it goes on, horror at the morgue, because the chap that's just been found guilty of the murder of two girls, as it now turns out, David Fuller, who is from Sussex, and he apparently was the most awful thing of necrophilia, is one way or another interfering with dead bodies, and so it's horror at the morgue, and of course questions are being asked, how could he get away with it? And in fact the Mirror says, how many more victims? Very distasteful. In fact, so much so that I'd like to skip over it. I mustn't, but I have. The Financial Times. The Bank of England sends investors scrambling by keeping interest rates on hold. It was widely expected that the Bank of England was going to try and cap inflation by raising interest rates, and it didn't. Oh, how wonderful. So there we are. Those are the newspaper headlines. Now, hopefully, if this system will handle it, we'll show you just a little bit of the Neville Bonfire Society's activities, which were last Saturday night, ahead of the main things. And while we're doing that, we'll try hard to get hold of Mick Symes, who's going to join me this morning. So let's look at it, and hopefully. Oh, it's quite loud, isn't it? We'll turn that down a little bit. All right.
Get my ears in.
Let's go.
Hopefully you haven't lost me, and we're looking at things. I'm not sure whether you can hear me or not, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, this is the sort of thing that we can expect today and this evening.
You would have a job.
So there we are. We can go back to that in a little while. We've got plenty of it. taken by Tony, a top-notch techie guy who has got us all sorted here, and hopefully it's all going to work. And with any luck at all, now Mick Symes will have got the little thing that he's supposed to click on, and he can find us. And I hope that it didn't interfere with your enjoyment of watching some of that bonfire. Now, one of the things I think that while all this is going on in Westminster, and while people are scrabbling to find other stories to try and alleviate the situation, which is scandalous, in my view, that our MPs are playing fast and loose with the law. One of my very good friends is a former Lord Justice, and he is very, very keen indeed, on making sure that not only we in Britain, but that the world generally understands rule of law. And yet it would appear that we in this country just don't care about it. We change it when it suits us. And that's really not a very nice thing to do. So it's something that is stuck in my craw, because I spent a lot of time in the Balkans, the Baltics, even Russia, and certainly in eastern Ukraine, where the Russians have made saber rattling noises, and one of the towns that I was working in, Lugansk, is where the rogue rocket went and brought down the Malaysian airline. So it's a very uneasy part of the world, and rule of law is very important to everybody, and for us to actually just play fast and loose with it. And for Boris, who actually, for all his faults, Boris finds that he often is known as a libertarian, and that we must follow rule of law. My goodness me, my scarf's all over the place this morning. And for him to be so casual and cavalier about it is really a bit of a worry, to say the least. Just a bit of a worry. Just I should keep you up to date on the time and so on. It's 8:14. Lovely day out there. A lovely day. The sun is shining. You could see your breath as you could half an hour or so ago as you walk through the streets. And all in all, a good autumn day. Autumn is here. And what a more appropriate day for autumn to arrive than on Bonfire Day. And tonight, for those people who are either new to Lewes or those people who watch outside, and I know that there's our famous Patagonian, of course, but there are people who watch in many parts of the world, and Bonfire is particularly special to Lewes. It's celebrated in the rest of the country, but nowhere as ardently and as passionately as here in Lewes. And part of the reason is that way before Guy Fawkes, who was arrested and was threatened with being hung, drawn and quartered for conspiracy. He was going to blow up the Houses of Parliament when he was part of a Catholic plot because the Henry VIII had overturned, had made us break from Rome. And then there was a struggle with his daughter Mary to try and bring back Catholicism. And then there was Elizabeth I, who decided that the state was more important than religion, and clung to a non-Catholic viewpoint. And here was dear old Guy Fawkes, a chief conspirator, who incidentally was a steward down here. At one side, with one of the stately families. He acted as a steward before he went off to be a rebel. And records down here say he was a very charming and lovely man. Anyway, he was caught before he could blow up the House of Commons. He was to be hung, drawn and quartered. he knew how horrible that was, and he managed to elude the hangman. And he hobbled towards the end of the platform from which the gallows was set on, and he threw himself off and managed to break his neck and avoid the horror of having his innards pulled out to all intents and purposes. Gosh, we do get on some gruesome things at breakfast time, don't we? But there they are. They're real. But it was Queen Mary who actually committed some atrocities by burning people at the stake. And that was some 30 or 40 years before Guy Fawkes. So the whole thing is a combination of history and various celebrations that went on various sides, and opposition to what the Crown was doing at any particular time. So it is a whole combination, and that's why, or partly why, it's so ardently followed here on November the 5th. And for those people who also don't know Lewes at all, Lewes is a small town. It's about a population of 17,000. In my time here, one night when November the 5th fell on a Saturday night, the weather was absolutely superb. The estimate was that the town swelled with the crowds that came to see people. They swelled to 100,000 estimated. Can you imagine a small town which caters to 17,000? And as you walk along this morning, you can see people putting boards up against their shop windows. Not because people get rowdy, and I mean, some people do get rowdy, but the coppers are pretty good, they nick them, and also the bonfire societies themselves have their security people out to make sure that it all goes off within the confines of law and order. But the pressure of crowds sometimes presses against the window and breaks it. So those protective shields are going up this morning. And as I say, there are other evidences of some rousers being let off. And a rouser is the word for what most people would call a banger. So there is lots going on. Now, I know that Mick is on BBC at the moment. We shouldn't advertise the BBC, should we? Why not? We don't care. We don't see them as we see them as just another part of the way that broadcasting is going, and we're lucky to be here. We hope that we're going to stay here. The whole face of broadcasting, and indeed for media, is changing, but broadcasting particularly because of the phenomena of Netflix and the way that people watch television now. So the BBC have got their problems, and we've got our problems, and we all go out and tackle them and hope that one way or another between us we still provide some sort of a service. So shall we take another quick look at a little bit of what the parades are all about? He said. Nothing seems to cut down the noise of the studio, so I'll just have to take it for granted that it's all right and it's not blowing you out of the house. This was last Saturday night, and a lot of this will be going on throughout the day, and particularly this evening. Well, there we are. That's a little taste. And I started off this hour at 8 o'clock by showing you where it's all happening. So why don't we just take a look at that as well? Lovely Lewes, beautiful little town, nestled on the below the cliffs that end the South Downs, and a town that I've loved being a part of for 30 years. Not the easiest town to live in sometimes, but at least it was the not birthplace, but Tom Paine worked on his rights of man. He was a rebel who went off and started the War of Independence in the United States, and he didn't believe in a monarchy. He believed in the rights of man, which got him in all sorts of trouble with the authorities. It can be rebellious. It can sometimes fight within itself, but it's a delightful place to be. And now, where are we? I think well, let me remind you of the weather again, because I think the weather is important to a lot of people today. A gentle breeze, sunshine, scattered cloud, scattered sunshine. There is plenty of sunshine out there at the moment. It's really bright, it's really nice. And that's where hopefully it's going to stay that way. The breeze gentle. Yesterday it said that the breeze was going to pick up, but this morning, looking outside and having walked through the town, it's not bad at all. And if it stays that way, no chance of rain. Well, it's about a 10 or 15% chance of rain, but that will only mean a little scattered shower, if anything. And really the right sort of day for bonfire. Let's hope that it stays that way, and it is just a great evening of celebration, because it comes after a hiatus of a year because of COVID. But around it happening, we continue with the war of words with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, who he keeps on saber rattling and threatening us with all sorts of things. As actually Stuart Dolby said yesterday when he was with me on this program, how can anybody be the leader of a big nation, a rather proud nation, and behave in such a childish way? There you are, he has and he does. So we just have to accept that unfortunately we have a situation on our hands with that. The strike in Brighton, as far as the stinky bits are concerned, the bin men seems to have been resolved there, but not in Glasgow, so that world leaders are coming into rather smelly UK. And locally, there is a bit of a worry, because every day we hear about a little bit more crime, and also we hear a little bit more about increase in COVID cases. Hopefully, it is not going to put us back, because we were about this time last year full of hope, and we're full of hope this year as we go into November. Which starts really, runs in from October, a season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. And indeed, that's what we're getting. Everything is pushed back a little bit, really. It used to start in October. Now it's starting in November. October is almost part of summer. But around us is a question of sleaze and people looking after themselves in Westminster. And yesterday, the papers were full of the fact that Boris had forgiven Owen Paterson, who had been a naughty boy and broken some protocol rules. And he got a 3-line whip on his MPs and managed to squeak through where he lifted the sanction. And then Paterson has decided he had enough and he's quit, leaving Boris high and dry. And anyway, I think Boris had realised what a big mistake that he'd made. He's great at suddenly finding out that he's made a mistake after the fact. But all in all, it ended up with a mess. And the Guardian, of course, just loves it. They've never loved a Tory government. The Tories plunged into crisis after sleaze rules U-turn. The Metro, which is a London paper, it's a bit flighty. It really does look after its own constituency, and that is London. And it goes much as the Londoners would think, not particularly along party politics. And it says Tory Owen Goal. That's because Patterson's name is Owen. The Eye, Day of Chaos in Downing Street. The Eye tends to be sort of a little bit left of centre. It can't wait for Boris to trip up. I think he really has tripped up this time. He's in a mess. We thought he was in a bit of a mess yesterday, but he's in a mess today, that's for sure. The Times, the PM faces party backlash after suspension U-turn. And the Daily Star. I just love that Star. I actually went into the paper shop this morning and I couldn't get my paper and I couldn't see the Star because the people that delivered it are very late this morning. God only knows why. I expect they'll have some sort of excuse. But the Daily Star, well, we didn't see that U-turn coming, said nobody ever. I mean, they really are silly. Some of the things that Boris has said in the past, down to the bare bones, giving him a really nasty bad time. However, here comes the Daily Express, which is always a government supporter. What shall we do? Said the editor. Well, let's just pretend that it's not there. Let's put our head in the sand as far as the scandal is concerned, and let's go back to COVID. Because people are concerned about it, and so they should be. But the Daily Express goes with game changer, the world's first pill to fight COVID. And quite rightly, it is giving some prominence to the fact that it looks as if a pill that is very, very effective against COVID it has been developed, has been tested, and could soon go on the market. So it is a big story. There is no question it's a big story. But they are fighting uphill against the other newspapers. With the Daily Mail, is anybody in charge at number 10? Although the Mail also changes its stance on its front page because it talks about I don't like to dwell on this, but the man who has just been, I think he's been found guilty, certainly charged with the murder of 2 young ladies. And it says that he was a necrophiliac and interfered with bodies in the morgue. Let's pass on to that as quickly as we can. The Financial Times. Well, here we are. The Bank of England sends investors scrambling by keeping interest rates on hold. Now, I was a financial journalist, a business journalist at Reuters for a decade. Not a great economist, but at least I understood what was going on. And of course, inflation is beginning to raise its ugly head after a decade of non-inflation. So the bank was expected to cap it. And the way that you normally do that is central banks raise interest rates. And so far, they haven't done it. And now, much as it was expected yesterday, when they make their monthly announcement, it didn't come. They said no. We're going to keep them. We're going to keep them as they are. So investors who were bracing themselves, probably getting rid of some shares and so on, so will all scramble to get them back because they were in the situation that they really had to be, save their money. Let's put it that way. But it will be a sigh of relief as long as the retail banks follow through, and they don't always do that. They can be a bit naughty, and in fact, I think the retail banks are very naughty. But then that's me. I actually have started a campaign against the return of the Triffids. The Triffids were creatures from outer space. They weren't actually sort of plant-like creatures from outer space who were very good at producing oil, and man actually then started to cultivate them until one night there is a starburst and everybody goes blind, and the Triffids break loose and create terror and havoc. And I say that the modern Triffid is the computer, which bears no sentiment whatsoever, doesn't care. And the thing is that banks say, oh, how useful they are, and the computer says this and the computer says that. But actually, the computers are ruling them. And that's gone far enough. It's a nonsense, and it's got to be looked at. Somebody's got to look at it. I'm the only one at the moment. But the return of the Triffids, we have to watch out. All right, now I'm going to make another attempt to get hold of Mick Symes. So let's just look at a bit more at the parade that Neville held on last Saturday, because it's very typical of what we can expect. And hopefully, while I'm doing that, I'll try and. Well, multiply that by about 7, and those who are new to Lewes can see what they're in for this evening. Are spectacular. And those who are watching from the outside and know perhaps a little bit about Lewes, it is back. It is back with a bang, no pun intended. And it looks, with the weather, as if it's going to be a spectacular evening. And things have already got underway, as they normally do. There's a mortar, I think it's about 6 o'clock in the morning, that goes off at the castle to signal this event. And it's gone off. I'm no expert, but Mick Symes is. I hope that our link is reaching him, and that we'll see him pop up in a little pod in a moment. If not, I most certainly will try to get him back and see whether we can do something outside this first hour. It is now 8:37 on the morning of November the 5th, 21. And this has not been, for me anyway, and for a lot of people that I know, not been the best year. It has been an annus horribilis, as the Queen said once. I was thinking as I was walking along this morning, coming into the studio, am I wishing my life away and hoping that it will end pretty soon? Because I'm ready for a new era. I'm ready for a new spring. I'm ready for a new challenge. And in doing that, I hope that I'm not actually sort of saying, let time stand still. A bit naughty of me if I am, I suppose. But it is important, I think, that we actually reflect on what's happened during lockdown. And already, those people who weren't terribly badly affected by it obviously have forgotten. One thing that I am glad to see is slowly people are returning to the pub. I dropped into my favourite pub the other night, and there were at least 3 people there that I knew, and I was able to have a chat. And it was 5 o'clock on my way home, and as I passed by in the bus, so there were rather more people gathered there. Let's hope that this is a sign of things to come, because immediately after lockdown, nobody was going to the pub. They are a very good social centres. They're a chance for people to let off steam. They're a chance for people to share views. Well, you say, that's what social media does. That's what computers do. Aha! Day of the Triffids. And somebody from Canada sent me an interesting little piece the other day, in which a young man said he took his grandfather down to the bank and said, you don't have to do this, Granddad. You can do all this on computer, you can do it online. In fact, you can even order your food in. To which the grandfather's reply was, I come down here and I meet at least 3 or 4 people on the way. Still, very unusually, I know the bank manager, and I have a chat to him. It gets me out of the house. Why would I want to isolate myself from the people who I know, that I like, that I'm able to talk to? And that's certainly true of not so much the banks anymore, but certainly the pubs. And why would we want to isolate ourselves? And perhaps that's part of the problem that we're experiencing in society now. People aren't communing. I think people of my age, we can't wait to get away from the computer. We can't wait to get out and about. We can't wait to meet other people. It is sad in many ways to see Lewes, where we are this morning, at sort of 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's almost empty. When I first came, it most certainly wasn't. It was a very vibrant town. Change of the times? Probably. Should we try to bring back people enjoying the evening? I think so. I lived for 2.5 years in Pristina. Many people say Pristina. Where the hell's Pristina? I was in Kosovo. Where's Kosovo? We've heard the name. Well, Kosovo is a small Balkan, now a republic. It was part of Serbia, disputedly, and it is won its international freedom and is now a country. But in the evening, they actually had promenades where people could walk and talk and enjoy each other. And Pristina was a lively town. And I can remember once we would go down to what was then known as Macedonia, but Fyrom, the Federal Republic, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and now I think it's called Macedonia North. It's changed its name. But we would go down there for various pieces of business, and on the way back, I remember one night coming over the hill, where the road swept down into Pristina, and I heard this tremendous racket. And I said to my driver, what on earth is going on? And he said, nothing, people are just out for coffee. And sure enough, as we drove in, so all the coffee houses were jam-packed with people communing and having a good time out. I mean, Pristina, yeah, it was a bit bigger than Lewes, but not much. And here it was, full of vitality, full of life. And I would hope that those times might return. Am I wishfully thinking? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's 8:42. I still haven't had Mick back. Whether that's the system or not, I have no idea. Or perhaps he's being kept with his other interviews. But we'll hope that he joins us before the end of the programme. And what we'll do is we will carry on and use our incidentally, yesterday we had great fun because Stuart Dolby joined me, and between us we managed to savage every sacred cow that exists in this country. And from now on, this is the last time that I will be alone on this programme. From now on, we'll have a co-host, and I hope that with that co-host, we can actually have a little bit of fun. We can discuss some of the serious things, we can get points of view, and ultimately I hope that we'll be able to invite some of you to take part. Some people do on the nobody is commenting this morning. Mickey Connors was full of stuff yesterday, and he's a regular viewer. He stoked up all sorts of fires yesterday, and I think it was. I'm not sure. Well, I better be careful. But there is a movie that was made in about 2000 or 2001, trying to point out what Britain would be like in 2020, and he said you should see it. It's so close to the mark. It's a worry, but there we are. But I'm going to have a co-host with me so that we can have a little bit of fun. But also, I am the mouth that roared. I am very opinionated. I try hard to make my opinions based on facts of what's going on around me. But I all in all, I'm able to get away with all sorts of outrageous things. And having a co-host with me means that somebody will bring me up short and say, no, you can't do that, Keith. Come on, stop it. And we've decided that what we're going to do is to invite people that are associated with Mirador but aren't necessarily journalists. Stuart Dolby is a very, very noted journalist and also an author. If you haven't got his book, Friends of Rathlin Island, get it. It's a good read. It's a post IRA times in Northern Ireland, and it does keep you on the edge of your seat all the way along. He's a very talented bloke, but also Andrew Sloan, who is a Snipchat host, a barber, a hairdresser. He is going to take part one day a week. Fergus Woods, who is a vintner and very knowledgeable on wine, he's going to join us, and not necessarily just because they know their subject. Basically, what will happen is they will be able to comment upon things that are happening and give perhaps a different viewpoint to mine, because it's like the opposition at the moment is Boris gets away with absolute murder simply because we don't have a strong opposition. Keir Starmer, everyone thought was going to be absolutely a brilliant leader. He's a brilliant man. Let's not knock him. He's a barrister, but he's as dry as old ditch water. He hasn't stirred the faithful to in any way think of challenging Boris in any real way. And the democracy really is made up of the fact that you've got 2 or 3 or 4 elements all who think differently and therefore can challenge each other and keep a cap on excesses. So we've got to do the same thing with this program. We've got to keep a cap on my excesses because when I get carried away, particularly if it's Lewes District Council and I start to have a go, there's no holding me. And actually one of my friends said, I was sort of taken aback really. He said, I listened to you this morning, Keith. He said, they're not all bad down in LDC. It stopped me in my tracks. facts, because of course they're not all bad down there. It's just that I think that we've got a combination of we're going through an age where we don't have strong leadership, and that's a pity. And if I am ranting about anything, it's that let's get a grip, let's get true leaders back in. Where are we now? We are at 8:47. Still no sign of Mick, so we'll see if we can get him a little later if he doesn't appear now. This is a very strange. It's a strange system, and Tony, our studio manager, has come to grips with it. But sometimes if it goes wrong, as it obviously has this morning, I don't know how to fix it. Even if I was given a screwdriver, I wouldn't know how to fix it. So we have to put up with what we've got. Let's take, for those of you who have only just joined us, I noticed that there are, here and there, it tells us how many people are sort of listening in, and there are a few of you, and it's changed, the number has changed backwards and forwards, so I assume that some are coming in and out. Let's just take you through what the newspapers are saying again this morning. Because there are a variety. The Daily Telegraph, Patterson quits after the backlash from MPs. Well, a lot of MPs got very excited about the fact that Boris sanctioned and actually held a three-line whip to get Conservative MPs to lift the sanctions on Owen Paterson, who'd been a bit naughty about lobbying on behalf of various companies, which is against the rules for MPs. A lot of people got very uptight because it was obviously a ploy to look after their own, as it were. The Guardian, one wouldn't expect the Guardian to be very friendly towards Boris, but the Tories plunged into crisis after Sleaze rules U-turn. Right, and the theme goes on with the Metro. Tory Owen goal. Well, that's because it's Owen Paterson. And play on words. Tory Owen goal. The day of chaos in Downing Street. Probably a bit over the top as far as a headline is concerned, but then headlines are there to try and grab you to read the rest of it, so let's not be too hard on them. And the Times, the PM faces party backlash after suspension U-turn. Well, I don't think that even Boris expected the man that he just saved to say, well, I've had enough, toodle pip, away I go. So he was in no two minds to be very generous towards this man, I don't think. The Daily Star, well, we didn't see that U-turn coming, said nobody ever. They're being a bit naughty with the Prime Minister there. Daily Express takes its usual guardian angel approach to Boris, game changer, the world's first pill to fight COVID. But, it is an important story in itself. They have tested a pill. It looks as if it works, and it's going to be a way to try and defeat this dreadful virus, which has conquered and directed our lives for the last 2 years. Is anybody in charge of number 10, says the Daily Mail. Horror at the morgue, all about a naughty man. And the Mirror, how many more victims? The same thing, because it said that he tampered with 100 bodies in the morgue in a rather nasty way, not to be talked about, I think, at breakfast time. And the Financial Times expresses a little bit of surprise that the Bank of England did not raise interest rates to try and cap inflation. So that's what's going on outside. Why don't we actually see a bit what's going on this evening? And I will try and get hold of Mick after this program is ended and bring him on for perhaps a little special report and a special chat. So here we go. Here's what happened last Saturday and what is going to happen in triplicate, quadruplicate, septuplets, whichever, tonight. Exciting stuff. Not everybody thinks so, but I have to say that generally speaking, that most people enjoy it. A lot of people come into Lewes. There's always controversy year after year after year because the authorities say don't come, and the more they say don't come, and take all sorts of steps to try and make sure that it's difficult to get off the train and get out of town in a car or get into town in a car, is people come. And it's always, that's human nature, isn't it? They never learn. The more you tell people not to do something, the more they're determined to do it. And I've met people who said, yeah, I walked all the way in from Brighton because I was so determined to get there. So we can expect a crowd tonight, I think. It's 8:54 on November the 5th, 2021. And a signal day for Lewes, and perhaps for this whole region, which widely across Sussex and parts of Kent and parts of Hampshire celebrate bonfire in a very real way, a way that now there's a little message there. I thought it might be from Mick, but it's not. A very real way, and it's I'm happy to say it is a spectacular, absolute spectacular. We will be on the air from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock this evening to try and bring you the best of it. It's a first attempt by us to do the job properly, but we've had some first class. Nick and Tony have worked tirelessly to try and get the system working so that it will do the job, and that when old Hayes, the amateur, is in charge, it all breaks down. It always breaks down when Hayes, the amateur, is in charge, and I can't fix it. But nonetheless, it should go smoothly this evening, and hopefully we can, those of you who like to see what's going on, is that we can bring it to you. There are a couple more. I understand that my good friend Kevin Kramer is doing some streaming. Kevin is essentially a radio man, but nowadays radio and streaming on television it goes into one. And Kevin is an old hand at this. Very complex. I don't know how you actually access his, otherwise I'd tell you, because there's no competition. What we want to do is to make sure that we actually bring to you what's going on in Lewes in the best possible way. And the other is Rocket Radio, which once again is radio, and they stream as they broadcast their radio, and it sometimes that might be even the best way to watch it. But you've got three of us all attempting to bring you some sort of good coverage. We made every effort to make sure that those people who are not going to wander out this evening, those people who don't know what it's all about, so they don't wander out this evening, but the huge numbers of people around the world who actually tap into these things and do follow what's happening in Lewes. They've either lived here, they know about it, or they were born and raised here and they moved away, or their families moved away. They follow it very carefully. 8:57, November the 5th, 2021. The weather is cool out there. It's not going to hit any higher than 10. The wind is going to be moderate, in fact quite light, according to the experts. Scattered cloud until the evening, and even then it will be scattered cloud. There'll be some periods of clear skies, and virtually no chance of rain. So there you are. That's where it is. That's what it's all about. And I hope that you'll join us. You can find us on Mirador Television, or Mirador Television Lewes on Facebook. You can find us on Mirador Television on YouTube. And you can find us on Mirador Television, all one word, .com, on our own website. You can watch on any of those streaming channels, shall we put it. And I hope that you will. If not, join one of the others. But enjoy this spectacle because if there is, I invited some friends down, say 6 or 7 years ago, from London, and they said, yeah, we'd love to go. We hear it's a bit of a spectacle and so on, and they were absolutely gobsmacked once they were involved in what was going on around them. The air is electric. The atmosphere is magic. It is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful occasion. And if you're not here, join us, or join Kevin, or join the people at Rocket Radio, and tap in and enjoy, because it is worth having a little nudge into. Right, you've heard me enough this morning. In the schedule, I was supposed to be able to chat to a guest. We are still finding out why this is a bit erratic in getting hold of guests. Undoubtedly, Tony will do that for me today, and we'll try again. But I have to say to you that Mick Symes runs Lewes Present on Facebook. It's a post page, and you learn an awful lot from it. So do join Mick whenever you can. He's a character. He's a character and a half. In fact, I think that he's upset some people, because there were some people posting things about him around town this morning as I walked in. Didn't bother to look what it was all about, and I wasn't really going to ask Mick, because the one thing about Lewes is Tom Paine found out. If you actually put your head above the parapet, you unfortunately quite often have it lopped off. It's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock. Right, and I'm going to go and have my hair cut. So I'm going to say toodle pip, and until later today, I look forward to seeing you later. Ta-ra.